Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to step into the incredible world of the pharaohs, the rulers of ancient Egypt who were seen as both kings and living gods. Have you ever wondered how they built the pyramids, what life was like under their rule, or how legendary figures like Hatshepsut and Cleopatra led one of history's most powerful civilizations? Together, we'll explore their rise to power, their epic monuments, and the battles they fought to protect Egypt. So get comfortable, relax, and let's begin this journey into the extraordinary world of the pharaohs. If you enjoy these stories, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more historical adventures. The divine rulers of Egypt, the pharaohs. At the heart of ancient Egyptian society were the pharaohs, rulers who were not only kings but were also considered living gods. To the Egyptians, the pharaoh was the earthly embodiment of the god Horus, the falcon-headed god of the sky and kingship. Upon death, the pharaoh became associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife and resurrection. This dual role as both a divine and mortal being gave the pharaoh unparalleled power and influence over all aspects of life in ancient Egypt. The pharaoh wasn't just a political leader, he was a crucial figure in maintaining the spiritual, cosmic, and physical balance of the world. The pharaoh's primary responsibility was to uphold Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian concept of truth, justice, and cosmic order. The maintenance of Ma'at was seen as essential for the continued prosperity and stability of the kingdom. Without the pharaoh's divine leadership, it was believed that chaos, known as Isfit, would take hold. This chaos was more than just political disorder. It could manifest as natural disasters like famine, drought, and the failure of the Nile's annual floods, which were critical for agriculture. The pharaoh's ability to maintain Ma'at was thus seen as the key to Egypt's survival. The pharaoh's role as religious leader. While the pharaoh held political power, he was also considered the high priest of every temple across the land. The gods were believed to require regular offerings and rituals to maintain their favor, and these were all performed in the pharaoh's name. Although priests carried out these duties on a day-to-day basis, it was the pharaoh's divine authority that ensured the gods were properly honored. The pharaoh's presence was symbolic of the God's will on earth, and without his guidance, the Egyptians believed the spiritual balance could falter, leading to widespread devastation. The pharaoh's divine nature wasn't just religious rhetoric, it shaped every aspect of their rule. He was responsible for ensuring the temples were properly maintained, that the priests were cared for, and that the gods were pleased through festivals, processions, and offerings. In the grand temples of Karnak, Luxor, and others, it was often the pharaoh's image that adorned the walls, showing him making offerings to the gods. This reinforced his role as both an intermediary and a protector of Egypt's spiritual health. Political and military power. Beyond his religious role, the pharaoh was the undisputed political and military leader of Egypt. His word was law, and he wielded absolute power over the country's bureaucracy. From managing the Nile's irrigation systems to overseeing monumental building projects, the pharaoh controlled every aspect of governance. A network of officials, scribes, and priests acted as his eyes and ears across the vast territory of Egypt, ensuring that taxes were collected, justice was administered, and the laws were followed. In times of war, the pharaoh led Egypt's armies into battle, often depicted heroically in reliefs charging into enemy lines on a chariot. Some pharaohs, like Thutmose III and Ramses II, were renowned for their military campaigns, which expanded Egypt's borders and secured its wealth through conquest and diplomacy. These campaigns reinforced the idea that the pharaoh wasn't just a ruler but also a warrior protector, chosen by the gods to defend Egypt against its enemies. These conquests brought back immense riches, further enhancing the pharaoh's prestige and ensuring the gods continued to favor Egypt. The pyramids, monuments to divine power. One of the most iconic symbols of the pharaoh's divine power are the pyramids. These monumental tombs, particularly the Great Pyramids of Giza, stand as a testament to the pharaoh's desire for immortality and their connection to the gods. The pyramids were designed as massive structures that would serve as the pharaoh's eternal resting place, ensuring their safe passage into the afterlife. The pharaoh's tomb was not merely a burial site but a gateway to the afterlife, where he would live forever alongside the gods. The construction of these massive structures required immense resources and labor, and they were a reflection of the pharaoh's power and wealth. The sheer size of the pyramids and the complexity of their construction highlighted the pharaoh's ability to command the labor of thousands, reinforcing their divine status. The Great Pyramid, built for Pharaoh Khufu, remained the tallest man-made structure in the world for nearly 4,000 years, symbolizing the pharaoh's lasting legacy and their dominance over the physical world. Women pharaohs, breaking the mold. While the pharaoh's role was traditionally male, there were notable exceptions where women ascended to the throne and ruled Egypt with great success. One of the most famous of these was Hatshepsut, who ruled during the 18th dynasty. As a female pharaoh, she faced unique challenges and often depicted herself in masculine forms in statues and carvings to assert her legitimacy. Despite these challenges, Hatshepsut's reign was marked by prosperity, ambitious building projects, and successful trade expeditions, particularly to the land of Punt, which brought back great wealth. Another powerful woman who ruled as pharaoh was Cleopatra VII, the last ruler of Egypt before it fell under Roman control. Cleopatra was known not only for her intelligence and political acumen but also for her strategic alliances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony. While often remembered for her relationships with these Roman leaders, Cleopatra was a shrewd and capable ruler in her own right, fiercely defending Egypt's independence. The pharaoh's connection to the afterlife. One of the most important responsibilities of the pharaoh was to ensure their transition to the afterlife, where they would join the gods. This belief in the afterlife was central to Egyptian religion, and the pharaoh's preparation for death began early in their reign. The construction of their tomb, whether a pyramid or a more elaborate underground chamber in the Valley of the Kings, was an essential part of this preparation. The tomb was filled with treasures, food, and goods the pharaoh would need in the afterlife, and the walls were often inscribed with religious texts and prayers to guide the pharaoh's soul. The process of mummification, which was perfected during the reigns of the pharaohs, was another critical element of their journey to the afterlife. By preserving the body, the Egyptians believed the pharaoh could achieve immortality and continue to rule alongside the gods. This elaborate process, combined with the grandeur of their tombs, reflected the pharaoh's deep connection to both life and death, and their enduring role in the eternal balance of the universe. The rise of the pharaohs, Egypt's early dynasties. In ancient Egypt, the story of the pharaohs begins with the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, a pivotal moment that shaped the future of one of the greatest civilizations in history. Before this, Egypt was divided into two regions, Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north. Each region had its own customs, rulers, and identity. However, around 3100 BCE, a powerful leader known as Narmer, or Menes, emerged to unite these two lands. This act of unification marked the birth of the pharaohs, the divine rulers who would command Egypt for thousands of years. Narmer's unification of Egypt wasn't just a political achievement, it was deeply symbolic. The unification established the pharaoh as the embodiment of order and harmony, the force that maintained balance in the land. The Egyptians believed their rulers were not only kings but also living gods, specifically the earthly incarnation of Horus, the falcon-headed sky god. By uniting Egypt, Narmer set the foundation for the divine kingship that would characterize the pharaohs throughout history. With this unification, the institution of the pharaoh was born. Pharaohs didn't just rule over Egypt, they symbolized the country's unity and the divine order. Narmer's reign also marked the beginning of Egypt's first dynasty, and he established the capital in Memphis, strategically located where Upper and Lower Egypt met. Memphis became the political and administrative heart of Egypt, and the pharaoh ruled from this city, controlling the fertile lands along the Nile. Following Narmer's reign, the early pharaohs worked to consolidate their power and establish a strong, centralized government. Egypt's Old Kingdom, often referred to as the Age of the Pyramids, began around 2686 BCE during the rise of the Third Dynasty. This period marked a time of prosperity and stability as Egypt grew into a dominant power, and the pharaohs undertook massive construction projects to showcase their divine authority. The most iconic of these were the pyramids, built as eternal tombs for the pharaohs, ensuring their journey to the afterlife. The first of these monumental structures, the Step Pyramid of Saqqara, was constructed for Pharaoh Djoser. This pyramid, designed by the legendary architect Imhotep, was an extraordinary departure from the traditional mastaba tombs. Built by stacking layers of stone one atop another, the Step Pyramid was the first of its kind, symbolizing not only the pharaoh's power but also his connection to the gods. It marked a significant architectural leap, setting the stage for the grander pyramids that would follow. The practice of pyramid building reached its peak during the Fourth Dynasty with the construction of the Great Pyramids of Giza. These towering structures, especially the Great Pyramid built for Pharaoh Khufu, are among the most enduring symbols of ancient Egypt. Standing at over 146 meters tall, the Great Pyramid was the largest man-made structure in the world for almost 4,000 years. Its construction required the coordination of tens of thousands of workers, and it remains a testament to the organizational power and wealth commanded by the pharaohs. But the pharaoh's influence extended far beyond grand architecture. As both a political and religious leader, the pharaoh had absolute authority over Egypt. His role was to maintain Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian concept of cosmic order, justice, and balance. To achieve this, the pharaoh controlled Egypt's vast bureaucracy, overseeing everything from the collection of taxes to the distribution of food. Egypt's stability depended on the pharaoh's ability to govern wisely, and his rule was seen as essential for the survival of the state. The pharaoh's divine status also meant he was responsible for maintaining Egypt's relationship with the gods. He was seen as the high priest of every temple in the land, responsible for ensuring the proper rituals were performed to keep the gods satisfied. The pharaoh's ability to communicate with the gods was essential to maintaining the fertility of the Nile, the source of Egypt's prosperity. If the pharaoh failed to perform his religious duties, it was believed that the Nile might not flood, leading to famine and disaster. Religion and governance were deeply intertwined in Egypt, and the pharaoh's legitimacy was grounded in his role as the intermediary between the gods and the people. Temples dedicated to the gods were built throughout the land, and in these temples, the pharaoh was depicted offering gifts to the gods, reinforcing his role as both a servant of the gods and the ruler of the people. Even after death, the pharaoh's responsibilities didn't end. The pyramids served as not just tombs but also as gateways to the afterlife, where the pharaoh would join the gods and continue to rule. Elaborate funerary practices, including mummification, were developed to preserve the pharaoh's body for eternity, ensuring that his soul would live on in the afterlife. As Egypt entered the 4th and 5th dynasties, the institution of the pharaoh continued to evolve. The Old Kingdom saw the pharaohs build ever larger tombs and temples, consolidating their power and wealth. However, the grandeur of these early rulers would not last forever. By the end of the Old Kingdom, Egypt faced challenges that would test the resilience of the pharaoh's rule. The early pharaohs of Egypt set the stage for millennia of rule, building monuments that still inspire awe today. They laid the foundations for a society that would flourish for thousands of years, and their legacy remains a powerful reminder of their divine and earthly authority. The construction of the pyramids. The pyramids of Egypt are one of the most recognizable and enduring symbols of ancient civilization, and they stand as lasting monuments to the power, wealth, and religious devotion of the pharaohs. These massive structures were not only designed as tombs to house the bodies of the deceased rulers, but also as gateways to the afterlife, ensuring the pharaoh's eternal life among the gods. The construction of the pyramids began during the Old Kingdom period, circa 2686 to 2181 BCE, and represents one of the most remarkable achievements in the history of architecture and engineering. The construction of the pyramids began in earnest during the 3rd dynasty of Egypt under the reign of Pharaoh Djoser. Before this, Egyptian kings were buried in mastabas, rectangular structures made of mud, brick, or stone. However, Djoser sought something more grand, a symbol of his divine authority that would last for eternity. For this, he turned to his trusted architect, Imhotep, who designed the first pyramid in Egypt, the Step Pyramid of Saqqara. Imhotep's vision was revolutionary for its time. Instead of a single, flat structure, he conceived a series of 6 stacked mastabas, forming a step design that soared 60 meters into the sky. This pyramid was not only a tomb but also a monumental statement of the pharaoh's connection to the divine and his desire for immortality. The Step Pyramid became the blueprint for future pyramids, but it was only the beginning. The 4th dynasty, which began around 2613 BCE, saw the rise of the great pyramid builders. This period marked the height of Egypt's wealth and power, and the pharaohs of this era left behind the most iconic structures ever built in ancient Egypt, the pyramids of Giza. The largest and most famous of these is the Great Pyramid, built for Pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops. Constructed around 2580 BCE, this pyramid originally stood at 146 meters tall and remained the tallest man-made structure on Earth for nearly 4,000 years. It is estimated that around 2.3 million blocks of stone were used in its construction, with each block weighing anywhere from 2.5 to 15 tons. These blocks were quarried from local sites and transported to the pyramid's location on the Giza Plateau. The logistics of moving and lifting these immense stones into place have long been a source of fascination and debate among historians and engineers. It is believed that ramps were used to haul the blocks up the pyramid, but the exact methods remain one of the great mysteries of ancient Egypt. The precision with which the Great Pyramid was constructed is nothing short of astonishing. The sides of the pyramid are aligned almost perfectly with the cardinal points of the compass, a feat that would have required advanced knowledge of astronomy and mathematics. The base of the pyramid covers an area of about 13 acres, and the joints between the massive blocks are so finely cut that it is said not even a sheet of paper can fit between them. These details speak to the incredible craftsmanship and planning that went into the construction of this colossal monument. Khufu's pyramid was not the only one built on the Giza Plateau. His son and successor, Pharaoh Khafre, constructed the second largest pyramid at Giza, which still retains some of its original polished limestone casing near the top. Khafre's pyramid is also famously associated with the Great Sphinx, a colossal limestone statue with the body of a lion and the head of the pharaoh. The Sphinx, standing 20 meters high and 73 meters long, was carved directly from the bedrock of the Giza Plateau and is believed to symbolize the pharaoh's strength and wisdom. The Sphinx has stood guard over the pyramids for thousands of years, and its enigmatic expression continues to captivate visitors and historians alike. The third pyramid at Giza was built for Pharaoh Menkaure, Khafre's successor. Although smaller than the pyramids of Khufu and Khafre, Menkaure's pyramid is notable for the complex of smaller satellite pyramids built nearby, which were likely intended for the pharaoh's queens. The Giza complex as a whole represents the pinnacle of pyramid construction, and the sheer scale and grandeur of these structures has cemented them as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Building these pyramids required not only an immense labor force, but also sophisticated organization and planning. For many years, it was believed that the pyramids were built by slaves, a misconception popularized by ancient Greek historians such as Herodotus. However, more recent archaeological evidence suggests that the labor force consisted of skilled workers who were well fed, housed in nearby worker villages, and even given medical care. These workers were likely farmers and laborers who contributed to pyramid building during the Nile's flood season when agricultural work was impossible. This seasonal workforce was supplemented by permanent crews of craftsmen, stonemasons, and engineers who oversaw the more technical aspects of construction. The pyramids were not merely tombs, they were part of an elaborate funerary complex designed to ensure the pharaoh's safe passage to the afterlife. Inside the pyramids, the pharaoh's burial chamber was often hidden deep within the structure to deter grave robbers. The walls of the chambers were inscribed with pyramid texts, religious spells, and incantations meant to guide the pharaoh's soul through the treacherous journey to the afterlife. The pharaoh's body itself was mummified, a process that preserved it for eternity, and the tomb was filled with treasures, food, and goods that the pharaoh would need in the afterlife. The religious significance of the pyramids cannot be overstated. The pyramid shape itself was believed to represent the rays of the sun, with the pharaoh's soul ascending these rays to join the gods in the afterlife. The pyramid was thus a symbol of both the pharaoh's divine power and his eternal life. The orientation of the pyramids, particularly the alignment with the cardinal points and the constellation of Orion, further emphasized their connection to the cosmos and the gods. Despite the grandeur of these early pyramids, the practice of pyramid building began to decline after the Old Kingdom. The construction of such massive structures placed a tremendous strain on Egypt's economy and resources, and later pharaohs sought less costly ways to ensure their immortality. By the time of the New Kingdom, circa 1550 to 1070 BCE, pharaohs were buried in hidden tombs in the Valley of the Kings, where their remains were less vulnerable to grave robbers. However, the legacy of the pyramid builders endured, and the pyramids of Giza, in particular, became enduring symbols of Egypt's might and the pharaoh's divine rule. The pyramids, especially those at Giza, remain among the most enduring and awe-inspiring achievements of human history. They are not only architectural marvels, but also powerful symbols of the pharaoh's absolute power, religious beliefs, and desire for immortality. For thousands of years, they have stood as a testament to the ingenuity, ambition, and spiritual devotion of the ancient Egyptians. Pharaohs in war and diplomacy. The pharaohs were not only divine rulers but also warriors and statesmen who extended Egypt's influence through both military conquest and diplomatic efforts. As Egypt grew in power and wealth, its rulers faced the need to defend its borders from external threats and expand its territories to secure valuable resources and trade routes. Pharaohs like Thutmose III, Ramses II, and Amenhotep III became known not only for their monumental building projects but also for their prowess on the battlefield and their diplomatic acumen. From the earliest periods of Egyptian history, the pharaoh was expected to lead his army into battle, serving as both a military commander and a divine protector of the land. The pharaoh's ability to win victories on the battlefield was seen as a reflection of his divine favor, a sign that the gods were on his side. Military triumphs not only brought glory to the pharaoh but also helped to maintain Ma'at, the cosmic order, by keeping chaos at bay. The success of military campaigns was often depicted on temple walls and monuments, with the pharaoh shown smiting his enemies in dramatic scenes of battle. One of the earliest and most successful military pharaohs was Thutmose III, who reigned during the 18th dynasty in the New Kingdom, circa 1479 to 1425 BCE. Thutmose III is often referred to as the Napoleon of Egypt due to his brilliant military strategy and numerous campaigns that expanded Egypt's empire to its greatest extent. During his reign, Egypt became the dominant power in the eastern Mediterranean, and Thutmose led at least 17 military campaigns into Syria, Canaan, and Nubia. His most famous battle was the Battle of Megiddo, where he defeated a coalition of rebellious city-states, securing Egypt's control over the region. The victory at Megiddo not only enhanced Thutmose's reputation as a great warrior but also allowed Egypt to control important trade routes and resources, ensuring its economic prosperity. Thutmose III's military campaigns were carefully planned and executed, with the pharaoh leading his troops into battle personally. The Egyptian army was highly organized and well-equipped, featuring chariots, infantry, and archers. The use of chariots, in particular, was a key factor in Egypt's military success during the New Kingdom. These fast, mobile units allowed the pharaoh to outmaneuver his enemies on the battlefield and strike with precision. The Egyptian chariot was a technological marvel, designed to be lightweight and maneuverable, allowing for quick strikes and retreats. In addition to military conquest, diplomacy played a crucial role in maintaining Egypt's empire and securing its borders. One of the most important aspects of Egyptian diplomacy was the establishment of marriage alliances with foreign powers. Pharaohs often married princesses from neighboring kingdoms, particularly from Mitanni, Babylon, and Hutti, as a way to solidify political ties and ensure peace. These alliances helped to create a network of friendly states that supported Egypt's dominance in the region. Amenhotep III, one of the most successful diplomatic pharaohs, reigned during a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity. He is often remembered for his building projects, including the construction of the Colossi of Memnon and the expansion of the Temple of Karnak, but he was also a master of foreign relations. Amenhotep III's reign saw Egypt at the height of its power, with its influence extending across the Near East. Rather than relying on military campaigns, Amenhotep III used diplomacy to maintain Egypt's supremacy, exchanging gifts and letters with foreign rulers and establishing marriage alliances to ensure stability. The Amarna Letters, a collection of diplomatic correspondence between Amenhotep III, his successor Akhenaten, and various foreign rulers, provide a fascinating glimpse into the complex diplomatic relations of the time. These letters, written on clay tablets in Akkadian, the diplomatic language of the day, reveal the negotiations, gift exchanges, and alliances that were crucial to maintaining Egypt's influence. They show that the pharaoh was not only a military leader but also a skilled diplomat who understood the importance of maintaining good relations with other powerful states. One of the most famous warrior pharaohs was Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, who ruled during the 19th dynasty in the New Kingdom, circa 1279 to 1213 BCE. Ramses II is best known for his military campaigns against the Hittites, a powerful empire in modern-day Turkey, and for his monumental building projects, including the temples at Abu Simbel and the Ramesseum. Ramses II's reign was marked by frequent conflicts with the Hittites, particularly over control of Syria and Canaan, which were key strategic regions. Ramses II's most famous battle was the Battle of Kadesh, circa 1274 BCE, one of the largest chariot battles in history, fought between the Egyptians and the Hittites near the city of Kadesh in modern-day Syria. The battle is depicted in great detail on the walls of Ramses II's temples, showing the pharaoh charging into battle and leading his troops to victory. However, despite the grand depictions, the battle was likely a stalemate, with neither side gaining a decisive victory. Nevertheless, Ramses II used the battle as a propaganda tool to enhance his reputation as a mighty warrior. Following the Battle of Kadesh, Ramses II and the Hittite king Hatshepsut III eventually signed a peace treaty, one of the earliest recorded treaties in history. The Treaty of Kadesh marked the end of hostilities between the two great powers and established a long-lasting peace. The treaty was inscribed on clay tablets and included provisions for mutual defense, extradition of fugitives, and the establishment of a peaceful relationship between Egypt and the Hittites. This treaty is a remarkable example of ancient diplomacy and highlights the importance of negotiation and alliance building in maintaining stability. In addition to their military campaigns, the pharaohs engaged in trade with neighboring regions, particularly with Nubia, located to the south of Egypt. Nubia was a source of valuable resources, including gold, ivory, and ebony, and Egyptian pharaohs frequently led expeditions to secure these resources. The relationship between Egypt and Nubia was complex, with periods of conquest and domination as well as trade and cooperation. Many pharaohs built forts and temples in Nubia to assert their control over the region and to protect Egypt's southern borders. The pharaoh's military and diplomatic efforts were essential in maintaining Egypt's empire and ensuring its prosperity. Through a combination of military conquest, diplomacy, and trade, the pharaohs extended Egypt's influence across the ancient world, securing its position as a dominant power. The legacy of the warrior pharaohs is still visible today in the monumental temples, inscriptions, and artifacts that celebrate their victories and achievements. The role of women pharaohs. In ancient Egypt, power was traditionally concentrated in the hands of male rulers, with the role of the pharaoh often associated with masculinity and strength. However, there were notable exceptions throughout Egypt's long history when women not only rose to power but also ruled as pharaohs in their own right. These female rulers defied societal norms and expectations, proving to be just as capable and influential as their male counterparts. Two of the most remarkable examples of women who held the title of pharaoh were Hatshepsut and Cleopatra VII. Their reigns were not only groundbreaking but also left an indelible mark on Egyptian history. Hatshepsut, who ruled during the 18th dynasty, circa 1479 to 1458 BCE, is often regarded as one of the most successful and powerful female pharaohs. She was originally the queen regent for her young stepson, Thutmose III, but after several years, Hatshepsut took the unprecedented step of declaring herself pharaoh. To solidify her position, she adopted the full regalia of a male pharaoh, including the false beard traditionally worn by male rulers. Statues and depictions of Hatshepsut often show her in male attire, symbolizing her authority and right to rule. Despite the unconventional nature of her reign, Hatshepsut was a highly effective ruler who presided over a period of great prosperity and peace. Hatshepsut's reign was marked by significant building projects and a focus on expanding Egypt's trade networks. One of her most famous achievements was the expedition to the land of Punt, a mysterious and wealthy kingdom located somewhere along the Red Sea or Horn of Africa. This trade expedition brought back vast quantities of gold, incense, and exotic goods, boosting Egypt's wealth and solidifying Hatshepsut's reputation as a successful and prosperous ruler. Hatshepsut commemorated this achievement with a series of reliefs at her magnificent mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, a grand architectural complex that remains one of the most stunning examples of ancient Egyptian temple construction. Hatshepsut's temple was more than just a tomb, it was a statement of her legitimacy and divine right to rule. The temple's walls were adorned with scenes depicting her divine birth, with the god Amonis-Ra being portrayed as her father, thereby linking her reign to the will of the gods. This narrative reinforced Hatshepsut's authority as a legitimate pharaoh, despite the challenges she faced as a female ruler in a male-dominated society. However, after Hatshepsut's death, her legacy was intentionally obscured. Thutmose III, who eventually became pharaoh after Hatshepsut's reign, had many of her monuments defaced, and her name was removed from official king lists. It is unclear whether this was an act of personal revenge or a political move to restore the traditional male line of succession. Despite these efforts to erase her from history, Hatshepsut's reign has been rediscovered in modern times, and she is now recognized as one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs. Another powerful and iconic female pharaoh was Cleopatra VII, the last ruler of Egypt before it fell under Roman control. Cleopatra's reign, which lasted from 51 BCE until her death in 30 BCE, is one of the most famous periods in ancient Egyptian history, due in part to her relationships with two of Rome's most influential leaders, Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. However, Cleopatra was much more than a romantic figure. She was a highly intelligent and politically astute ruler who fought fiercely to preserve Egypt's independence in the face of growing Roman dominance. Cleopatra was a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek-speaking family that had ruled Egypt since the time of Alexander the Great. Unlike many of her predecessors, Cleopatra embraced Egyptian culture and presented herself as the reincarnation of the goddess Isis, positioning herself as a divine figure in the eyes of her subjects. She was fluent in several languages, including Egyptian, and worked to build strong diplomatic relationships with other nations, including Rome. Cleopatra's political alliances with Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony were part of her broader strategy to maintain Egypt's sovereignty and strengthen her position as pharaoh. Her relationship with Caesar resulted in the birth of their son, Caesar Ion, whom Cleopatra declared as her co-ruler. After Caesar's assassination, Cleopatra aligned herself with Mark Antony, with whom she had 3 children. Together, Cleopatra and Antony sought to create a powerful Eastern empire that could rival Rome, but their ambitions ultimately led to their downfall. The defeat of Cleopatra and Mark Antony at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE marked the end of their dream of an Eastern empire. Following their defeat, both Cleopatra and Antony took their own lives, and Egypt was annexed by the Roman Empire. Cleopatra's death marked the end of the Ptolemaic dynasty and the conclusion of over 3,000 years of pharaoh rule in Egypt. Despite her tragic end, Cleopatra remains one of history's most enigmatic and compelling figures, remembered for her intelligence, charisma, and determination to protect her kingdom. While Hatshepsut and Cleopatra are perhaps the most well-known female pharaohs, there were other women who played important roles in Egyptian politics and governance. Nefertiti, the wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten, is another example of a powerful queen who may have ruled as a co-regent or even as a pharaoh in her own right after Akhenaten's death. Nefertiti is famous for her beauty, immortalized in the iconic bust that now resides in the Neues Museum in Berlin, but she was also a key figure in Akhenaten's religious revolution, which centered on the worship of the sun god Aten. The role of women in ancient Egypt, especially in the royal family, was often more complex than in many other ancient civilizations. Royal women could hold significant influence, both as queens and as regents for young pharaohs. While the title of pharaoh was typically reserved for men, women who rose to power as pharaohs left a lasting legacy, demonstrating that leadership and political skill were not confined to gender. The stories of Hatshepsut and Cleopatra, in particular, highlight the resilience and ambition of women who defied tradition and overcame immense challenges to rule Egypt. Their legacies have endured through the ages, and their reigns remain some of the most fascinating chapters in the history of ancient Egypt. As we continue exploring the world of the pharaohs, we will delve into the religious beliefs and rituals that defined the lives of these rulers, including the complex relationships between the pharaohs and the gods they worshipped. Religion and rituals in the pharaohs' lives. Religion was at the core of ancient Egyptian society, and for the pharaohs, it was both a source of their power and a fundamental responsibility. The pharaohs were seen as intermediaries between the gods and the people, embodying divine authority on earth. Their rule was thought to maintain cosmic order, known as Ma'at, the concept of truth, balance, and justice that kept the universe in harmony. Everything the pharaohs did, from their daily lives to their grand construction projects, was infused with religious significance, and their connection to the gods was essential to their legitimacy and authority. The pharaohs were considered to be the living embodiment of Horus, the falcon-headed god of kingship in the sky. Upon their death, they were believed to become one with Osiris, the god of the underworld and resurrection, symbolizing their eternal life. This divine duality, being Horus in life and Osiris in death, reinforced the idea that the pharaoh's role was not just political but also spiritual. They were the key to ensuring that the gods' favor continued to bless Egypt, and without their leadership, it was feared that chaos, famine, and disaster might follow. One of the most important religious duties of the pharaoh was the performance of rituals and offerings to the gods. While these rituals were often carried out by priests on a daily basis, it was ultimately the pharaoh who was seen as the chief priest of every temple in Egypt. The pharaoh's presence in the temple, whether physically or symbolically through statues and inscriptions, was believed to be essential for the proper communication with the gods. These temples were not only places of worship but also centers of economic and political power, often controlling large estates and vast resources. The grand temples of Egypt, such as Karnak and Luxor, were monumental spaces where the pharaoh was depicted making offerings to the gods, reaffirming their divine connection. These temples were meticulously planned and built, often over the course of several pharaohs' reigns, and they served as the spiritual heart of the kingdom. Each temple was dedicated to a specific deity, and the rituals performed there were meant to maintain the favor of that god or goddess, ensuring fertility, prosperity, and protection for the land. The temples also played a key role in the festivals that marked the religious calendar. One of the most important of these was the Opet festival, celebrated in Thebes, where the statues of the gods Ammonius, Mut, and Khonsu were paraded from the temple of Karnak to the temple of Luxor in a grand procession. The pharaoh would participate in these festivals, reinforcing his role as both a religious leader and a divine figure. These public displays of devotion helped to maintain the pharaoh's image as the upholder of Ma'at, ensuring the continued stability of the kingdom. Religious festivals were also a way for the pharaohs to connect with their people, as the celebrations often included feasts, music, and dancing. The said festival, celebrated in the later years of a pharaoh's reign, was another important ritual, symbolizing the renewal of the pharaoh's strength and vitality. It was a way to demonstrate the pharaoh's continued fitness to rule, both physically and spiritually, as they symbolically ran and performed feats of strength before the gods and the people. In addition to these public rituals, the pharaohs were also responsible for the construction of grand mortuary temples and tombs that would ensure their safe passage into the afterlife. The belief in the afterlife was central to Egyptian religion, and the pharaoh's tomb was seen as a gateway to eternity. These tombs, whether the grand pyramids of the Old Kingdom or the hidden tombs in the Valley of the Kings during the New Kingdom, were meticulously designed to protect the pharaoh's body and possessions, which were believed to be needed in the afterlife. The journey to the afterlife was fraught with challenges, and the pyramid texts, coffin texts, and later the Book of the Dead were inscribed in the tombs to guide the pharaoh's soul through the dangers of the underworld. These texts contained spells, prayers, and instructions that would help the pharaoh navigate the trials of the afterlife, where they would face judgment by the gods. If the pharaoh was found to have lived a righteous life in accordance with Ma'at, they would be granted eternal life with the gods. The process of mummification was an essential part of preparing the pharaoh for the afterlife. The body needed to be preserved so that the soul, or Ka, could return to it after death. The Egyptians developed an elaborate system of mummification, which involved removing the internal organs, treating the body with natron to dry it out, and wrapping it in linen. The heart, which was believed to be the seat of intelligence and emotion, was often left inside the body, while the other organs were preserved in canopic jars. The mummified body was then placed in a series of coffins, often made of gold or elaborately decorated wood, before being laid to rest in the tomb. The tombs of the pharaohs were filled with treasures, food, and personal items that the pharaoh would need in the afterlife. These treasures were meant to ensure the pharaoh's comfort and status in the next world, and they included everything from gold jewelry and weapons to furniture and clothing. The most famous example of this is the tomb of Tutankhamun, discovered by Howard Carter in 1922, which contained thousands of priceless artifacts, including the iconic gold burial mask of the young pharaoh. The construction of the tombs and the performance of the rituals surrounding death were deeply intertwined with the pharaoh's role as a religious figure. The pharaoh was not just preparing for his own afterlife, he was also ensuring the continued prosperity of Egypt through his divine connection. By maintaining the favor of the gods, the pharaoh guaranteed that Egypt would remain a stable and prosperous kingdom, with the floods of the Nile continuing to provide the life-giving waters that sustained agriculture and ensured the survival of the people. Throughout their lives, the pharaohs were constantly balancing their earthly duties with their divine responsibilities. They were seen as the ultimate authority on all matters of law, governance, and religion, and their rule was essential for the continuation of Ma'at. The intricate rituals, grand temples, and elaborate tombs of ancient Egypt were all part of the pharaoh's efforts to maintain this divine order and ensure their eternal place among the gods. Pharaohs and the afterlife. For the ancient Egyptians, the afterlife was not merely a continuation of life on earth, it was an eternal existence that was central to their worldview. The pharaohs, as divine rulers, were believed to have a special connection to the afterlife, where they would live forever among the gods. This belief in the pharaohs' eternal life shaped nearly every aspect of their reign, from the construction of their monumental tombs to the complex funerary rituals that ensured their safe passage to the next world. The afterlife was not just about the pharaoh's personal journey, it was a reflection of their role in maintaining the balance of the cosmos and ensuring the prosperity of Egypt. The journey to the afterlife was fraught with challenges, and the Egyptians believed that the soul had to navigate a dangerous path filled with obstacles and trials. To assist the pharaoh in this journey, tombs were filled with elaborate religious texts, including the pyramid texts during the Old Kingdom, the coffin texts in the Middle Kingdom, and later, the Book of the Dead during the New Kingdom. These texts served as a guide, providing the pharaoh with the necessary spells, prayers, and instructions to overcome the challenges of the underworld, known as Tuat. The belief in the afterlife was rooted in the myth of Osiris, the god of the underworld and resurrection. According to Egyptian mythology, Osiris was a king who was murdered by his brother Seth but was resurrected by his wife, Isis, and became the ruler of the underworld. Osiris's death and resurrection symbolized the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, and the pharaohs were seen as embodying this cycle. In life, they were the living Horus, the god of kingship, and in death, they became one with Osiris, continuing their reign in the afterlife. To prepare for their journey to the afterlife, the pharaohs constructed elaborate tombs filled with treasures, food, and items they would need in the next world. The most famous of these are the pyramids of the Old Kingdom, particularly the Great Pyramid of Giza, which was built for Pharaoh Khufu. These monumental tombs were designed not only to protect the pharaoh's body but also to serve as a place of worship where offerings could be made to the deceased ruler. The pyramid shape was believed to represent the rays of the sun, symbolizing the pharaoh's ascension to the heavens. However, as time passed, the construction of pyramids became too costly and impractical. By the time of the New Kingdom, pharaohs were buried in more discreet and protected tombs in the Valley of the Kings, located on the west bank of the Nile near Thebes. These tombs were carved deep into the cliffs to hide them from grave robbers, and they were elaborately decorated with scenes from the Book of the Dead, showing the pharaoh's journey through the underworld. The tombs were also filled with treasures, but the pharaoh's body itself was the most important object, as it was believed that the soul, or Ka, needed a preserved body to return to after death. The process of mummification was essential to this preservation. The Egyptians believed that the body needed to be intact for the soul to live on, so they developed an elaborate system of embalming to ensure the body's preservation for eternity. Mummification involved removing the internal organs, which were placed in canopic jars, and treating the body with natron, a type of salt that dried it out. The body was then wrapped in linen and placed in a series of coffins, often made of gold or elaborately decorated wood, before being laid to rest in the tomb. The final judgment of the pharaoh's soul was a key aspect of their journey to the afterlife. In the Hall of Mot, the pharaoh's heart was weighed against a feather, symbolizing truth and justice. If the heart was lighter than the feather, the pharaoh was deemed to have lived a righteous life and was granted eternal life with the gods. If the heart was heavier, it would be devoured by the demon Ammit, and the pharaoh's soul would be condemned to oblivion. This moment of judgment was depicted in many tombs, showing the pharaoh being led by the god Anubis to the scales of judgment, where Thoth, the scribe of the gods, recorded the outcome. The afterlife was not just about the pharaoh's personal salvation, it was also about ensuring the continued prosperity of Egypt. The pharaoh's ability to join the gods in the afterlife was seen as essential for maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic balance. If the pharaoh failed to reach the afterlife, it was believed that the forces of chaos would be unleashed, threatening the stability of the kingdom. As a result, the entire society was invested in ensuring that the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife was successful. This is why so much effort was put into the construction of the tombs, the mummification process, and the elaborate funerary rituals that surrounded the pharaoh's death. The tombs of the pharaohs were not just places of burial, they were also places of ongoing worship. After the pharaoh's death, offerings of food, drink, and goods were regularly made at their tombs to ensure that their spirit was sustained in the afterlife. The temples attached to the tombs, known as mortuary temples, were places where priests performed daily rituals in honor of the deceased pharaoh. These temples were grand structures in their own right, often featuring colossal statues of the pharaoh and intricately decorated walls depicting their divine deeds. The tomb of Tutankhamun, discovered by Howard Carter in 1922, is perhaps the most famous example of an Egyptian royal tomb, largely because it was found nearly intact, filled with treasures and artifacts that had been untouched for over 3,000 years. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb provided unprecedented insight into the funerary practices of the pharaohs and the immense wealth and care that went into preparing them for the afterlife. The legacy of Akhenaten, a pharaoh's religious revolution. One of the most extraordinary and controversial periods in ancient Egyptian history occurred during the reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten, who ruled in the 18th dynasty around 1353 to 1336 BCE. Akhenaten is remembered for his radical departure from traditional Egyptian religion, introducing a form of monotheism centered around the worship of Aten, the sun disk. His reign represents a profound shift not only in religion but also in Egyptian art, culture, and politics, creating ripples that would resonate long after his death. Akhenaten, born as Amenhotep IV, was the son of Amenhotep III, one of Egypt's most prosperous and powerful pharaohs. Early in his reign, Akhenaten followed in the footsteps of his father, worshipping the traditional pantheon of Egyptian gods, including Amunias-Ra, the king of the gods. However, around the 5th year of his reign, Akhenaten made a dramatic and unprecedented decision. He abandoned the traditional gods and declared that only Aten, the sun disk, was the true god. He even changed his name from Amenhotep, meaning Amunias is pleased, to Akhenaten, meaning beneficial to Aten. The religious transformation Akhenaten instituted was unlike anything Egypt had seen before. For centuries, the Egyptian religious system had been polytheistic, with gods like Amunias, Ra, Osiris, and Isis playing central roles in both public and private worship. Akhenaten's new religion, known as Atenism, rejected these gods and focused solely on Aten, the visible disk of the sun. Aten was depicted not as a human or animal figure, like most Egyptian gods, but as a radiant sun with rays ending in hands that extended blessings to Akhenaten and his family. This new monotheistic focus had profound implications for Egyptian society. Akhenaten closed temples dedicated to other gods, particularly the powerful and wealthy cult of Amunias, and redirected resources and power to the worship of Aten. The traditional priesthood, which had wielded considerable influence under the polytheistic system, saw its power diminished as Akhenaten took on the role of high priest of Aten. This religious upheaval was deeply unpopular among many Egyptians, particularly the priests and nobles who had benefited from the old system. Akhenaten's religious revolution was accompanied by a radical change in art and architecture. Traditional Egyptian art had been highly stylized, with pharaohs depicted as idealized, godlike figures. Under Akhenaten, however, art became more naturalistic and expressive. Akhenaten himself was depicted with exaggerated features, including an elongated face, narrow eyes, full lips, and a rounded belly. These depictions have puzzled historians for centuries, leading to speculation about whether Akhenaten suffered from a genetic disorder or whether this new artistic style was meant to emphasize his divine connection to Aten. One of Akhenaten's most ambitious projects was the construction of a new capital city, Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna, dedicated to the worship of Aten. Located in a desert region far from the traditional power centers of Thebes and Memphis, Akhetaten was designed to be the physical manifestation of Akhenaten's new religious vision. The city was built quickly, with grand temples and palaces dedicated to Aten, and it became the political and religious center of Egypt during Akhenaten's reign. Akhetaten was a city like no other in Egypt. Unlike traditional temples, which were enclosed and dark, the temples of Aten were open to the sky, allowing the rays of the sun to shine directly on the altars. Daily life in the city revolved around the worship of Aten, with Akhenaten and his queen, Nefertiti, playing central roles in the religious rituals. Nefertiti, in particular, was depicted as an equal partner in the worship of Aten, and many images show her alongside Akhenaten, receiving the blessings of the sun god. Despite Akhenaten's efforts to reshape Egyptian society, his religious revolution was short-lived. After his death, possibly in 1336 BCE, Egypt quickly reverted to its traditional religious practices. Akhenaten's successors, including Tutankhamun, restored the worship of the old gods, and Akhenaten's name and legacy were largely erased from history. His city, Akhetaten, was abandoned, and many of his monuments were dismantled or defaced. The priests of Ammonius regained their influence, and Atenism was denounced as heresy. The erasure of Akhenaten's legacy was so thorough that for centuries, little was known about his reign. It wasn't until the discovery of Amarna in the 19th century that historians began to piece together the story of this extraordinary pharaoh. Today, Akhenaten is seen as a revolutionary figure, an iconoclast who challenged the established order and introduced a new form of spirituality to Egypt, even though it was ultimately rejected. Akhenaten's reign raises intriguing questions about the nature of power, religion, and reform. Was he a visionary who sought to purify Egyptian religion and bring it closer to a monotheistic ideal? Or was he a heretic whose religious fanaticism destabilized Egypt and led to its decline? Historians continue to debate these questions, but one thing is clear: Akhenaten's bold experiment in monotheism was one of the most remarkable episodes in ancient Egyptian history. The fall of the Pharaohs. After more than 3,000 years of rule, the age of the Pharaohs came to an end, and the once mighty civilization of ancient Egypt began to decline. The fall of the Pharaohs was not the result of a single event, but rather a series of internal and external pressures that gradually eroded the power and influence of Egypt's rulers. As foreign invasions, economic challenges, and political instability took their toll, Egypt's position as a dominant power in the ancient world slowly faded, leading to the end of the pharaoh's reign and the annexation of Egypt by the Roman Empire. The first signs of Egypt's decline appeared during the later years of the New Kingdom, circa 1550 to 1070 BCE, a period often regarded as Egypt's last great age of imperial power. Under rulers like Thutmose III and Ramses II, Egypt had expanded its empire through military conquests, establishing control over territories in Nubia, Syria, and Canaan. However, maintaining such a vast empire required significant resources, and by the time of the 20th dynasty, Egypt's wealth and military might were being stretched thin. One of the major factors contributing to the decline of the new kingdom was the growing influence of the priests of Ammonius, whose power rivaled that of the pharaohs themselves. The cult of Ammonius had grown increasingly wealthy and powerful over the centuries, controlling vast estates and temples throughout Egypt. By the reign of Ramses XI, the last pharaoh of the new kingdom, the priests of Ammonius effectively controlled Thebes and much of Upper Egypt, undermining the authority of the pharaoh and creating a state of political disunity. At the same time, Egypt faced external threats from the Sea Peoples, a mysterious group of seafaring raiders who attacked the eastern Mediterranean during the 12th century BCE. The Sea Peoples wreaked havoc on Egypt's coastal cities and contributed to the destabilization of the region. Although Ramses III, one of the last great pharaohs of the New Kingdom, was able to repel the Sea Peoples in a series of battles, the cost of these wars further strained Egypt's economy. Following the collapse of the New Kingdom, Egypt entered a period of fragmentation known as the Third Intermediate Period, circa 1070 to 664 BCE. During this time, Egypt was divided between rival dynasties, with various rulers claiming control over different parts of the country. The division of power between Upper Egypt, ruled by the priests of Ammonius and Thebes, and Lower Egypt, ruled by military leaders in Tanis, created political instability and weakened Egypt's ability to defend itself against foreign invaders. In the 8th century BCE, Egypt came under the control of the Kushite kings of Nubia, who established the 25th dynasty and ruled as pharaohs for nearly a century. These Nubian pharaohs, such as Pi and Taharka, sought to restore Egypt's former glory by reviving traditional religious practices and rebuilding temples. However, their reign was short-lived, as Egypt soon faced a new and powerful threat, the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrians, known for their formidable military power, invaded Egypt in 671 BCE under the leadership of King Esarhaddon. Although the Assyrians briefly occupied Egypt, their rule was unpopular, and they struggled to maintain control over the country. The Assyrian occupation weakened Egypt further, and by the time the Assyrians withdrew, Egypt was vulnerable to further invasions. In 525 BCE, Egypt faced another foreign conquest, this time by the Persian Empire under King Cambyses II. The Persians incorporated Egypt into their vast empire as a satrapy, or province, marking the end of native Egyptian rule. Although the Persians allowed Egypt a degree of autonomy and respected its traditions, the pharaohs were now little more than puppet rulers under Persian control. The Persian occupation of Egypt was briefly interrupted by the 31st dynasty, when Egypt regained its independence for a short period before being reconquered by the Persians. However, the most significant and final blow to the pharaoh's reign came in 332 BCE, when Alexander the Great of Macedonia invaded Egypt. After defeating the Persian forces, Alexander was welcomed as a liberator by the Egyptian people, and he was crowned as pharaoh in Memphis. Alexander's conquest of Egypt marked the beginning of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a line of Greek rulers who governed Egypt for nearly 300 years. The Ptolemaic period saw a blending of Egyptian and Greek cultures, with the Ptolemaic rulers adopting many of the customs and titles of the pharaohs. The most famous of these rulers was Cleopatra VII, the last active pharaoh of Egypt. Cleopatra's reign was marked by political intrigue, military alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, and her efforts to maintain Egypt's independence in the face of growing Roman power. Despite Cleopatra's attempts to secure Egypt's future, the Roman forces of Octavian, later known as Augustus Caesar, defeated her and Mark Antony at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Following Cleopatra's suicide in 30 BCE, Egypt was annexed by Rome, and it became a province of the Roman Empire. The reign of the pharaohs had come to an end, and Egypt's long history of independent rule was over. The fall of the pharaohs marked the conclusion of one of the most remarkable civilizations in history. Over the course of 3,000 years, the pharaohs had built monumental structures, expanded their empire, and developed a rich cultural and religious legacy that continues to captivate people around the world. Although the power of the pharaohs eventually faded, their legacy lived on through the monuments they left behind, from the pyramids of Giza to the temples of Luxor and Karnak. The achievements of ancient Egypt and its rulers remain a testament to the enduring impact of one of the world's greatest civilizations. The rediscovery of the pharaohs, Egyptology, and the modern world. The fall of the pharaohs marked the end of ancient Egypt's rule, but their legacy remained hidden for centuries, buried beneath the sands of time. It wasn't until the 19th and 20th centuries that the world began to uncover the incredible achievements of ancient Egypt, leading to the birth of modern Egyptology, the scientific study of ancient Egyptian civilization. Through the discovery of tombs, temples, and treasures, archaeologists and historians have pieced together the story of the pharaohs, sparking a renewed fascination with their world and uncovering some of the most significant archaeological finds in history. The rediscovery of Egypt began in earnest with Napoleon Bonaparte's expedition to Egypt in 1798. Accompanying Napoleon's army were a group of scholars and scientists who documented Egypt's ancient monuments, hieroglyphs, and culture. This expedition, known as the Description to El Egypti, was one of the first comprehensive studies of ancient Egypt, and it brought Egypt's ancient wonders to the attention of Europe. One of the most important discoveries made during this expedition was the Rosetta Stone, a black basalt slab inscribed with a decree in 3 scripts: Greek, Demotic, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. The Rosetta Stone would prove crucial in deciphering ancient Egyptian writing. The breakthrough in understanding hieroglyphs came in 1822, when French scholar Jean-François Champollion successfully deciphered the Rosetta Stone. By comparing the Greek and Egyptian texts, Champollion was able to unlock the meaning of hieroglyphs, opening the door to the study of ancient Egyptian language, history, and culture. His work was a monumental achievement, and it marked the beginning of modern Egyptology. The 19th century saw a wave of exploration and excavation in Egypt as archaeologists, adventurers, and treasure hunters sought to uncover the secrets of the pharaohs. Many of Egypt's most famous monuments, such as the temples at Abu Simbel and the pyramids of Giza, were studied in detail for the first time, and collections of Egyptian artifacts were sent to museums across Europe. However, this period was also marked by looting and the removal of priceless treasures from Egypt, a legacy that continues to spark debate about the ownership and preservation of ancient artifacts. The most famous discovery in the history of Egyptology came in 1922, when British archaeologist Howard Carter uncovered the tomb of Tutankhamun in the Valley of the Kings. Unlike most tombs, which had been looted over the centuries, Tutankhamun's tomb was found largely intact, filled with thousands of treasures, including gold jewelry, statues, and the iconic golden burial mask of the young pharaoh. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb was a worldwide sensation, and it remains one of the most significant archaeological finds of all time. The treasures of Tutankhamun's tomb provided an unparalleled glimpse into the wealth, artistry, and religious beliefs of ancient Egypt. The tomb's walls were adorned with scenes from the Book of the Dead, and the objects within the tomb revealed the Egyptians' belief in the afterlife and the importance of ensuring that the pharaoh was well equipped for his journey to eternity. Tutankhamun's relatively short reign may have been unremarkable in comparison to other pharaohs, but the discovery of his tomb cemented his place in history as one of the most famous figures of ancient Egypt. The study of Egyptology continued to evolve throughout the 20th century, with new discoveries shedding light on the daily life, religion, and governance of ancient Egypt. The excavation of sites such as Karnak, Luxor, and the Temple of Hatshepsut at Deir el-Bahari revealed the architectural and engineering prowess of the ancient Egyptians, while the discovery of tombs and mummies in the Valley of the Kings and Valley of the Queens provided invaluable information about the burial practices of the elite. One of the most intriguing areas of Egyptology is the study of mummification and the preservation of human remains. Advances in technology, such as CT scans and DNA analysis, have allowed scientists to study ancient mummies in ways that were previously impossible. These techniques have provided insights into the health, diet, and medical practices of the ancient Egyptians, as well as revealing details about the lives and deaths of individual pharaohs. For example, modern research has revealed that Tutankhamun suffered from multiple health issues, including a clubfoot and malaria, which may have contributed to his early death at the age of 19. The rediscovery of the pharaohs has not only enriched our understanding of ancient Egypt, but has also inspired generations of artists, writers, and filmmakers. The allure of Egypt's mysteries, from the construction of the pyramids to the enigma of the Sphinx, has captured the imagination of people around the world. From the Victorian fascination with Egyptomania to the blockbuster success of films like The Mummy, the legacy of the pharaohs continues to influence popular culture and spark curiosity about the ancient world. Today, Egyptology is a thriving field, with ongoing excavations and research projects continuing to uncover new insights about the pharaohs and their civilization. Recent discoveries, such as the tombs of high-ranking officials near Luxor, new finds in Saqqara, and the exploration of the Great Pyramid's hidden chambers, demonstrate that there is still much to learn about ancient Egypt. Each new discovery adds another layer to our understanding of this remarkable civilization, ensuring that the legacy of the pharaohs remains alive and vibrant. The monuments, treasures, and writings of ancient Egypt have stood the test of time, offering a window into a civilization that was once the pinnacle of human achievement. The rediscovery of the pharaohs has not only brought their world back to life, but has also reminded us of the enduring power of history and the importance of preserving the past for future generations. The world of the pharaohs is one of the most fascinating and enduring legacies of human history. From their divine rule over Egypt to their monumental architectural achievements, their stories have transcended time, leaving an indelible mark on the world. The rise of Egyptology in the modern era has allowed us to uncover the mysteries of this ancient civilization, bringing to light the complexities of their religion, culture, and governance. The rediscovery of the pharaohs has given us a glimpse into their incredible accomplishments, from the towering pyramids to the intricate tombs filled with treasures. These rulers, once considered divine intermediaries between the gods and their people, have become immortalized through the artifacts and monuments they left behind. As we conclude this journey into the world of the pharaohs, we are reminded of their lasting impact on history and how their stories continue to captivate the imagination of people around the world. Whether through the breathtaking beauty of Tutankhamun's treasures or the towering grandeur of the pyramids, the legacy of the pharaohs endures, offering timeless lessons on power, belief, and the human quest for immortality. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of ancient Egypt's most iconic rulers. Don't forget to subscribe and like for more fascinating journeys into history.